Ed Archer is one of the new generation of farmers, but has a deep farming legacy. His family's been farming Landfall on the banks of the Tamar, north of Launceston, since 1876. The family operates a nationally recognised Angus stud, where they run a breeding herd of 1,800, turning off 500 stud bulls a year, and a Launceston butcher shop selling Landfall branded beef and prime lamb. Ed grew up watching his father plant trees and now intends to plant more. So how does he see the role of trees in the past, the present and the future?
My father started planting the first plantation trees here in about 1998. There was a bit of a push on at that stage that farmers had to diversify to be economically viable. Most of the plantations were strategically placed to offer some stock shelter, and then other ones were used for buffer zones with our seed stock operation. Having those trees and those plantation areas which are fenced off to livestock gives us extra land with some sort of feed source underneath them that we can go in and graze when things are really tough. And we can have some pretty rough cold weather in that early springtime when we've got a lot of cows calving, a lot of ewes lambing. So any added protection that we could offer is quite beneficial. And in today's livestock markets, when lamb's worth $8 a kilo and every extra lamb you can produce adds up quite quickly. We had some issues around stock health with grass tetany, which is a magnesium imbalance for particularly older cattle. That's usually caused by rough weather and the livestock stop eating, and then the imbalance occurs and they can be dead within half an hour if you're not onto it. So everyone that we lose not only hurts at that time, but in our genetic enterprise, where we know exactly what that animal is and the genetic potential that they can offer to us, if it's one of the better ones, it hurts quite a bit. So we're able to utilise the plantations to offer some shelter quite quickly, and so in the rough weather events they'd continue to keep eating rather than stop.
The policy on Landfall is to use trees in strategic positions with a clear purpose to add value and make unproductive areas more productive. Ed says it doesn't have to be an either-or choice between stock and trees.
We've got all these circles now, irrigator circles that we've put into squares, so we have all these dead corners, and I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to plant some trees in those areas that aren't going to be irrigated. The area behind me, we actually irrigate some of that with a gun irrigator, and when the trees were taken away we really noticed the difference of the efficiency of the water. If you just look at it from a dollars and cents point of view, livestock versus trees per hectare, livestock are way ahead, of course, but when you integrate the two together, both are beneficial. Any extra productivity with the livestock obviously makes up for that area that's taken out with the trees.
Looking to the future, Ed sees consumers putting a value on sustainable farming practices, buffer zones, woodlots, stock shelter and protecting topsoil.
The little bit of time that I've spent on the backside of the counter in our retail shop, the consumer is more and more concerning about where their food comes from, what environment it's produced in, is it sustainable. They're happy about buying our product because we are doing positive things around trying to be sustainable. There's a real push on or anti-push on red meat because of the methane emissions particularly, plus other emissions around the fossil fuels and stuff that we use, but we can quite easily integrate some trees and not lose any productivity and also have that benefit of offsetting some carbon.
And that's being reflected in the way the next generation of farmers are farming.
My father's generation, he bought a lot of land and actually cleared the land, whereas our generation is a bit more fortunate in the returns that we're making, and we can put a bit more money back into the landscape. They can see a bigger picture, they can see that trees can actually add a lot of value and not take away from productivity.
And in the future, Ed's taking a long view. He intends on investing in more trees and is keeping a close eye on future markets.
Private forests have been a really good resource for me. Any questions that I've got, they'll point me in the right direction. Different species selection and around carbon credits and planting pine trees over blue gums, that sort of thing. So yeah, more than happy to help you. Aesthetically, the trees add to the landscape, and I think if you were to sell the land, I think it definitely adds to the value of the land. Definitely like to plant more trees, I'd like to plant some longer term trees that can be pruned for saw logs down the track. They're a longer term crop and they can actually be really valuable in a succession plan. So there might be a sibling that's not going to farm, or obviously there's parents that in a lot of cases need some sort of superannuation fund. So a crop of trees that can be strategically planted early and then are going to be harvested around the times that money's needed can be really useful, because once they're established, there's not much cost involved in the middle period, yet you come up with this lump sum down the track. Now I can probably get, 1.5, 2 crops of trees out again before my retirement, so it potentially makes that succession plan a bit easier. Yeah.